Hey, what's up, Foundry? Good Wednesday to you all. I'm doing this on Tuesday, and it looks like it might be raining tomorrow night, so I don't know if I will see you, but I hope you have a chance to look at this as we're continuing to look at living in the world. Now, the reason I'm doing this, it's some good material, but the main reason is this. You're alive, and you're living in the world. Okay. That's kind of a dumb thing, but the truth is you are living in the world, and the older you get, the more responsibilities that you have equals more choices that you'll make, which determines which direction you will go. You will be living in the world. That's what you're doing. Now, we've been talking about, I'll say this phrase probably a number of times, from my good friend Mark Barnett. Nothing wrong with living in the world as long as the world is not living in you. Nothing wrong with a boat being in the water, but there's a lot of things wrong with the water being in the boat. You might say, well, wait a second. If I got a boat that's got a small leak, that's not a big problem, is it? I mean, after all, if I'm only going to be out on the lake for 2 hours, and I know that that leak is really small, and it's just letting a little water in, I can get back in time and then dump the boat out and I'll be okay. And the truth is, you might be. For now. You see, the problem is, the more leakage in your boat, the more potential for disaster, the more times you're out on the lake. And the thing is this, you don't go into the world one time. You know, we've all gone through this safer at home, sheltered in place with the coronavirus. And for a couple of months, we, at least our family, my wife and I, Brenda and I, we pretty much stayed at home. I would come over here to the church and I would record some things. I might run to the grocery store and get what we need, or order it online and pick it up. And so in those, about 2 months or so, it was easy to stay out of the world, literally. But that's not real life, is it? See, after that's over, we're back into real life. If you've been watching the news at all, you notice, and in your age group, I hate to say it, but you're saying, I don't care about the leaks in the boat. I don't care about because I'm just going to go out and have a good time one time, just one time. Can I bring it to your attention? I read something today. It really saddened me. A 19-year-old, I believe she was 19, might have been 17, in Florida. Now, she did have some underlying health problems, no doubt about that. But a church said, let's have a release party. Let's get back together. And so they had a DJ and a games, and you know the end of the story, right? She got the COVID-19 virus, and she died. Now, she was only in the world, is the way I'm using it right now, one time. It only took one time. See, the danger with saying, well, I'll be safe, I'll get in the world, I'll dabble in the world, but I'm not going to let it flood my boat. I'm not going to capsize my life. The problem is you don't know, because in the choices that you make that increase the leakage of your life to the world, make it increasingly more possible for you to make some very serious and long-lasting, impacting decisions. And what I don't want from you, because I love you guys and I want the best for you guys, is for that not to happen. We talk about being moral. What does that mean? Well, morality is basically accepted ways of living, making choices that would reflect a common accepted way of doing things. So morality in general terms is kind of like behaving. But when we talk about morality in the Christian life, it is why you do what you do. Not simply imposing upon yourself restrictions, but rather going to the root cause and finding out why you are doing it in the first place. What are your morals? What is your morality? And there's where it becomes difficult. Because it's easy for us to look at, this is what I shouldn't do, therefore I will or I won't do it. It's a lot more difficult to say, here's who I am, and as a result of that, I will or will not participate in this kind of life, living in the world. Unfortunately, again, I had it in my day. You will have it in abundance in your day. I didn't have social media, obviously. In the dark ages, we didn't have that. We were just getting electricity. No, wasn't that bad. But we didn't have the kind of proliferation of everyone's doing it, so why don't you do it too? Now, you did. We had television, we had radio, we had newspapers, magazines. And so we had some things that we could see that you say, hey, if you go out and you go to a party, when you get drunk, it's really fun. I mean, after all, you loosen up, you laugh, and when you dance, you don't care how stupid you look. In fact, the more stupid you look, the better, because everyone's laughing and you're having a great time. So, therefore, it's a great idea to go get drunk, right? No. Why? Well, let's talk about that. How about the sexual tension? We spent a lot of time last year on it. But if you're going to get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and if you're going to impress them or please them, then common knowledge says social pressures from social media say you got to give yourself up. You got to expose yourself so you can show that you are prettier or more sexy or more vibrant or more alluring than the other person. It's kind of like, if you think about it, going to a meat market and someone who's got some cows that are going to be slaughtered, they say, look, this one is a lot better than that one, therefore this is more value. You ever thought about that? Girls, have you ever thought about that kind of mindset is almost like going to a meat market and saying, I'm more valuable, you should like me because of what I look like, or how much I'm willing to give to you for free. Now, I'm being kind of crude, but I hope I'm getting my point across. If you want to be cattle and be used that way, you see, you have a choice. Because living in the world says, now here it is, the world says there's an absolute distinction between who you are and what you do. Therefore, if I do sexual things, it doesn't matter because that's not who I am. God says, you're a fool. You are lying to yourself. And every time you give yourself away, physically, you're also giving yourself away emotionally and spiritually. Those are morals. Why do we do what we do? What about drugs? I mean, just little pills that are kind of fun. In fact, again, in my day, I don't even know if the phrase is still around or not, but we used to say, I'm going to sow some wild oats. I'm going to sow some wild oats. What does that mean? Well, it's kind of like, it's going back to agrarian days when farmers would go out and they would plow the fields up and throw the seed out there. They're oats. They would be growing some oats. But they're saying, I'm going to put some bad seeds in there. Some weeds, some bad oat. And I'm just going to throw it in there. And it won't make any difference anyway because the good will outweigh the bad. So if I take some drugs and I experiment, listen, I'm young. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me. Come on. What's the big deal, right? You see? Just a little bit of water in your boat is not a big deal. Now, I think you would agree with me that a little bit of water in the boat is worse than none at all. Would you agree with me? I think so. So the ideal is to keep the water out of the boat because you never know when that leak is going to get worse and affect you at a time you're unprepared for it. That's morals, but the morals are not just, well, Pastor Larry said I shouldn't be a piece of meat and I shouldn't experiment and I shouldn't be stupid and get drunk at a party and then drive a car even. You know, you see that all the time, right? And kill somebody. Because that's a bad thing to do. And my parents say it and pastor says it, and therefore I shouldn't do it. Well, okay, at one level that's good, but I want you to know that's not nearly enough. Because guys, you are going to be living in the world. It's going to be your choices, what you do with your life, your morals, your morality will not be imposed from somebody outside of you, but it will come from the values that are within you. So, let me give you a couple of verses. One fella that's mentioned in the New Testament, but he's an Old Testament guy. His name is Moses. You probably remember Moses, the burning bush, leading the children out of Israel, and so forth. If you remember how he got started, he was Jewish. And his mother, to protect his life, put him in a little basket. And then he was adopted by the Pharaoh's daughter, the king's daughter. And he grew up in wealth, in privilege, in education, in all kinds of fun stuff that the Egyptians were in. Not the Jews, not the religious folks, not the believers in God. But he grew up around all of these party goers, everyone doing it. And he was doing life. He had the opportunity to do life just like them. But here's what Hebrews has to say, chapter 11. It was by faith that Moses, when he grew up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. What? He had the privilege. What does that mean? Did he say, I don't want you anymore? That's not what he's saying. He's saying, I know who I am. I am a child of the Jews who believe in the one true God. I will worship the one true God, and because I worship the one true God, I cannot also allow the beliefs, the customs, the lifestyle of the Egyptians to rule my life. I must manage it with what I believe myself to be. I am a believer in God. Therefore, I will not follow after the Pharaoh and all those people. Goes on and says, he chose to share the oppression of God's people instead of enjoying the fleeting pleasures of sin. He said, my morality will be based upon who I am. Therefore, when I have the opportunity to choose for Egypt or for God, I will choose for God, even though not choosing for Egypt means I will lose all the privileges that it has. He says, he thought it was better to suffer for the sake of Christ than to own the treasures of Egypt. Why? For he was looking ahead to his great reward. He was saying, it's smart. It's just smart to know what is of value and shape my life according to that value. And if I'm going to live this much of my life in relation to eternity, it's just a thumbnail, a fingernail, a sketch. If I know that when I die, I have eternity yet to come, and that will last forever, isn't that more valuable? Shouldn't I shape my life around what I really believe in? You see, it's one thing to say, I believe in heaven. It's another thing to live like you believe there is a heaven and that you're going to it. It's not two different things. It's one thing. And that's what Moses did. He believed in what was to come, and he said, that's what will shape my life. Let me give you one other thing. This is what Jesus said. Calling the crowd to join his disciples, he said, now here you go. Here's the call. He's calling you. If any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. Cross meaning death. Death to yourself, meaning I will follow after you, and I will not just seek out my own desires and live in this world as this world would have me live it. And he goes on. He says, if you try to hang on to your life, you'll lose it. You try to make this life everything for you, it will slip through your fingers. It will be flooded up in all of the evils of this world, and you will lose your life. But if you give up your life for my sake and for the sake of the good news, you will save it. Then he says this, so incredibly powerful. What does it benefit you if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? Who is your soul? It's who you are. You see, that if you are a believer of Christ, God says, I bring you into the safety of my salvation. And as you remain in my care and in the boat of my salvation, here's what I want you to do. Don't let the world seep in. Don't let it get in. Why? Because your soul is what I value. You, that's who I value. Do you value yourself as God values you, or do you value yourself as the world values you? Let me tell you what, the world values you to eat you up and spit you out. It has no concern for you except as a passing thing. You remember the prodigal son who had all the money from his father, and he went out and he partied and he lived the life that everyone said, this will bring you joy and happiness. But when he ran out, which you will, of the resources of life, he was miserable. And it's only as he said, I must come back to see my Father and come within the safety of his life. Don't let the world get in your life. Living in the world, man, it's not easy. But morality is more than just simply saying, tell me what the right thing to do is and I will do it. That's not it. It is beginning to find out who you are. Child of God. Do you look like God in every social situation, every boy-girl situation, every temptation situation? Are you looking like God, or are you looking like the world? Only you can know that, and you can cover it up. You can look like God to me, but I'm not the one that's going to judge you. Your parents aren't going to be the one that judges you. It's going to be between you and your heavenly Father. So what will you do? You know, guys, I love you, and I so want the best for you. Thank you for watching this. We'll be seeing you soon. Bye-bye.